Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to the shed. The question which we're going to be answering today, what is the difference between Spitfire Symphony Orchestra and their BBC Symphony Orchestra library? So one's recorded by the BBC Symphony Orchestra, the other is recorded by top of the line session players. But what's the difference to you? This was the most common question which came off the back of last week's video when Spitfire relaunched their Spitfire Symphony Orchestra at a much lower price of £499. Coincidentally, it was the same day that we relaunched Cinematic Orchestration, our most popular short course of all time, I think. Second course I ever created 20 years ago, etc. So that's also now on sale at an astounding price. But today, what I'm going to be doing, first of all, is showing you what the difference is between these two libraries for a kick-off, and then writing a little piece of music and trying to use lines from both, because what I've got here is I've got a template with both the BBC and there we go, you've got BBC and you've got the Spitfire Symphony Orchestra there in the same space. Okay, here we go. Symphony Orchestra, BBC. Symphony. Why is the BBC the blingy one? I don't know. Anyway, I'm bound to forget which way round it was. Okay, here we go. Symphony Orchestra came first, out a few years ago. BBC Symphony Orchestras come more recently. The Symphony Orchestra was originally in contact and remains in contact, and the Symphony Orchestra therefore looks like this. Here it is. Here's the interface. Standard contact. This is the full version of contact, but the Symphony Orchestra comes in the player as well. So if you don't have contact, you can get the free player. And the BBC Symphony Orchestra comes in the Spitfire player, which you either like or you don't. But whichever way it is, that's you pays your money, takes your choice. Probably the biggest difference for me is this next one. That the Symphony Orchestra is recorded at Air Lyndhurst Hall, and the BBC Symphony Orchestra is recorded at the Maida Vale Studios. Now, the Air Lyndhurst has got a particularly sort of ambient, round, warm, rich sound. That's why people go there. So it sounds really kind of, without any reverb at all, it sounds quite lush. It sounds like this. Hear that sound? That is just the sound of the tree mics. That's nothing else. That's before you get into extra mics and reverbs and all that. Okay? So that's Symphony Orchestra. Let's now swap to the BBC. Come on. Can't see because I've got stupid sunglasses. Here we go. Okay, this is the BBC's playing the same thing. Much tighter sound. It's more of a scoring stage sound. So scoring stage sound for the BBC, sort of lush, sort of hall sound for the Symphony Orchestra. Now, that is very much a matter of choice, which you prefer. But that is the difference, one of the biggest difference. The other difference is you get a lot more techniques, and you definitely get more techniques and instruments with the Symphony Orchestra, particularly versus the core version of the BBC library compared to the Pro version. And you get lots and lots of stuff. I mean, so for example, let me just get up. Here we go. Let's see what we got going. So this is the first violins. Look, so you got everything from longs, consordino, harmonics, flautando, long sol, pont, sol, tasto, sol G, marcato attack, spiccato, then short half second, short 1 second, short brush, etc, etc, etc. You're not going to run out of articulations anytime soon. I mean, that's a lot. Okay. I mean, it's not that you don't get lots of articulations with the BBC one as well. I mean, you do. You get loads of those as well. Look, you get legatos, longs, consordinos, flautandos, pizzicato, spiccato. You don't get as many, but you still get, probably more than enough for most people. The other difference is mic positions. With the BBC, you get dozens of them. I mean, ridiculous numbers. Look, all these, you get 4 pages worth of mic positions, including Atmos, spill mics, in other words, picking up the sound of the strings on a woodwind mic and things like that. Yeah, just tons and tons and tons. With the Symphony Orchestra, you get these 5. The original contract version only had 3, and these have now got ambient, outriggers, and lead. But basically, close, tree, and ambient, for me, is pretty much all you really need. So that's you know, the main difference is now, obviously, the one which matters to an awful lot of you is this one at the bottom, $499. Don't you hate it when people say, "Oh, you know, it's just $499"? It's not $499. It's £499. So the Symphony Orchestra is £499. BBC Core is £399, or the Pro version is £899. This is full price. Currently, the intro price, which is applying to the Symphony Orchestra, means it's near it's about £400, which puts it on a par with BBC Core. Now, if it's going head to head with BBC Core, then the Symphony Orchestra wins hands down because it's got a lot more stuff. Versus the Pro, BBC Pro, it's a bit more sort of, you know, nuanced. But look, the real point is, what does all this sound like if you're silly enough to try and sit down and write a piece of music in real time with lots of people watching? Let's find out. Okay. It's a nice sunny day here in the Sussex countryside. Nobody on my bird feeders at the moment, but I'll keep an eye. I'll keep you posted because I know you really want to know that. You don't just want to know what's going on here. Right. So let's start off. The only idea I have in my brain right now is this, that I was going to start with an alternating little ostinato, which is going to go between D minor and B flat. But I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to start with an inversion of D minor. So that's root position. Now, an inversion is where you put something other than the root in the bottom. So first inversion is with the 3rd in the bottom. Second inversion, which is what we're using today, puts the 5th in the bottom. Now we just do an ostinato, which is going to go. But it's not going to just do that. It's going to go to the B flat. And how are we going to go to the B flat? We're going to raise that to there. That's all it's going to be. And then we're going to build a little cathedral of wonderfulness around it. Now, way! Okay. I'm going to do a little soft quantize to 8th notes. And the soft quantize is where it moves it very gradually, gently towards the beat. So it doesn't move it all the way. You see what I mean? It moves it a bit, but not a lot. And that sometimes is a really sort of sensible way of doing it. The other thing about this is there were some bumpy bits of velocity in there, like that one. So I'm going to go in there with the pencil and just smooth it out a bit, so it's not quite so bumpy. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, like that. What would it sound like, however, had we done that on the BBC? Here we go. Let's listen to this. Start there. Sounds like a bigger section. Sounds like I'm going to sneeze. Apologies. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other. But the nice thing with strings is it's nice and easy to layer them together. So this is what they sound like together. Yeah, I'll go with that. Right, now I think underneath that we're going to have a little cello line. So let's see what cello legato sounds like. Now, some of you may have noticed that you have to use your mod wheel. If you want to make things sound real, mod wheel is everything. Let's play that. Let's play a line in. Let's see how it goes. I would like more of these violas, to be honest, because just when it was getting going, I brought my cello line in. I thought, actually, do you know what? I can, actually, no, I'm going to have to turn off soft quantize. I'm going to have to quantize it harder so that the beginning is nice and, there we go. Now I can extend the end, because we're going to extend the end by dragging that little box out. Whoops, no, we're not like this. We're going to do this. There it is. Jonk. Right. So let's redo the cello, because I quite like the cello to go on a bit longer than that. Okay, let's well, okay, let me play the BBC's cello, because actually it's one of the best patches in the library, I think. I really like that. I mean, it is a bit drier. Let's try that one instead. That's not legato. Here we go. What I also would like, actually, is I'm going to bring in some basses, but I don't want them to follow this line entirely. I'm going to bring it in here when it comes to rest, which is on the, when it comes back to the D. Okay, now we definitely need, this ostinato is fine, but it needs some help. And help is going to come in the form of harp, maybe? What have we got going on here? Here we go. There's some harp there. I found some harp. But I'm not going to just go. I'm going to go. Or something like that. It's either that. Exactly where I start with my little inversion, we'll have to see. Let's try. No, I think it's going to work better. And I'm going to come in straight away. Now let's do what we did before. Let's see what the BBC harp sounds like. Broadly speaking, a lot of the BBC stuff sounds sort of more sort of rounded in some kind of strange way. How about some Celesta to go with it? That's the BBC one. I'm not a big fan of that one. That's the Symphony Orchestra one. Hands down, that one wins for me. Maybe we just do some little highlights like that. Do we keep it going? I'm not sure. Is that too much? Maybe too much, actually. It's a bit too, no, let's try something else. That's better. That sounds all right. So we're going with the Symphony Orchestra Celeste. You see why it sometimes helps to have more than one library, because some things just sound better on one and another, and some things sound worse. Can't tell you which is which. Okay, right. We haven't got into any woodwind yet. Start with the BBC. I fancy a kind of desplatty sort of line here. Which one's that? Ah, right. That's this is the BBC one. You can hear it's a much more contained sound, but I do want the. Okay. Let's just go for it, guy. Okay, now let's add something else in from, that's going to need, okay, if we're doing that, we're going to have to add some reverb, because that did sound a bit dry to me. There we go, a little bit. Let's now swap to the Symphony Orchestra for some, an oboe maybe? That's lovely. Okay, and a bassoon underneath, which can just follow the. That doesn't sound like anything like a bassoon. No, because it's a cello. You can't. Once upon a time, I hired a what was it? Ney flute player, and I went to the tube station to pick him up, and he turned up with this huge, great triangular case. I thought, this bit, ney flute's tiny. Okay. Getting back to the studio, and he brings out, and inside is a kanun, a sort of harp thing. I said, "Oh, you're supposed to be a ney flute player." I said, "Oh no, my friend the ney flute player was deported yesterday, so he sent me along." What? Ney flute, kanun? Anyway, sounded nice. Right, where was I? Oh yes, we were going to try and find where my bassoon's gone. Where? Do you ever have a lost bassoon crisis? Yeah, I've got one going on today, mate. Yeah. Here we go. Bassoon solo performance. That'll do. There you go. Loads up nice and quickly. Hello. That's better. Here we go. Oh yes. Oh yes. You see, you can add little bits of movement around things. All I did there was. It's not very different to what's going on in it, but it just sort of adds a little extra. It adds extra if you start at the right time, guy. Oh, okay. A little bit messy, but I'm. This is this performance thing kicking in here, which. Non-vib? Do you want non-vib or vib? Which flider? I forget which flider it is. Come on. Oh, goodness. Which? Oh, of all my sliders are all over the shop. I don't know what's. Okay, I'm going to just go with this and see if I can interlace some little woodwindy line in here. I don't want the only one, I want that second one, which fitted all right. Right, okay. Now, what haven't we used yet? Brass. Let's look at the brass. So what we got going on here? Are we going to use some trombones? Yeah, well, let's have a little look at the trombones, what we got going. This is the Symphony Orchestra trombones. I'm using solo trombone because if you have three trombones you have bass trombone and two tenors, which is quite a standard orchestral lineup, you're more often than not, they're going to be playing one note each. So you're going to have a sort of type thing going on. And that's a nice sound. There, on a low dynamic. So I tend to use a solo trombone rather than... Let's drop something in. I'm not going to bring it in immediately. Even that came in too soon. Take the first couple out. Let's now get... that was BBC brass. What about Symphony Orchestra brass? No, that was Symphony Orchestra brass, sorry. What about the BBC horn, for example? Legato. Now, if I remember rightly, there is, I'm pretty sure somewhere in here they have some, do they have mutes? No, they don't. Mutes is often something which you, qui, a long flutter, multi-tone, marcato, struck. No, you don't. Okay. I may be wrong, but okay, let's add a horn line. Okay. Well, if we're going to make it truly heroic, we could go the extra mile with some... That's the Symphony Orchestra. Trumpets coming in at the end there. Okay. Climaxing, coming to an enormous, exciting climb. No, it's not quite enormous. And I wanted to get something going at the beginning. I want something more ephemeral going on. Now, so I've gone to my Symphony Orchestra strings because I do get some really amazing options here, like trills of a minor third. That's a very, very nice texture. And I want to drop that in very subtly over the top of all this at the beginning. At which point we can bring in... Ooh, that's violins one. Let's... swap them back to, let's go for I want to go for the performance one on the violins. and then we're very nearly going to call it a day. How long have we been going? 26 minutes, that's not too bad. Okay, so all techniques, performance, here we go. Let's drop them in. That is very, very lovely. Okay. So we're going to wait until the violin trills are finished, and then we're going to come in with it, because it'd be unrealistic to have too many layers of violin 1. That was awful. Again, I've got too much going on in here, to be absolutely honest. And I think I'm going to take that down an octave so that it's an octave below the trumpet. Actually, the trumpet's too much. Mute trumpet. I'll tell you what, that was the symphony orchestra. Let's add an octave in the BBC so that you can hear the difference. Where's the violins? There we go. Let's copy them off. Whoops. And then go down to BBC strings, violin 1 legato. That's it. And then we're going to call this a day. That's it. And post it in. Okay, sounds very nice. Right, so here's what the whole thing sounds like. That's your lot. So, whether you choose BBC Symphony Orchestra or, is that the right way around? Spitfire Symphony Orchestra, they both sound great. And it's really, how big's your pocket? Have you got one or the other? But you see how actually having more than one library really helps, and how they do have different characters, different personalities. You may also have picked up a number of kind of orchestration type techniques as we're going through that, and that's the kind of thing which we explain at even greater length in our newly relaunched legacy product, which is cinematic orchestration. It's an old course with some incredibly valuable, timeless advice in there from some incredible people, even though the video's a bit 4x3 and I've got more hair and less beard, because quite a lot of it was filmed some time ago. If you look beyond that, it's a treasure trove, as they say. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little video and you found it useful. Go and check out the libraries and indeed cinematic orchestration, links below this. So meanwhile, from me in my shed in the West Sussex countryside, see you again soon. Bye-bye.